What's up, everybody? King of Fomo here, coming at you with your daily crypto update. Today, we're going to be talking about a brand new Avalanche NFT called Hoppers Game. This is one that I really do like. I like NFTs that you can actually interact with and do things with, and I do think that these are the type of NFTs that we're going to be seeing more of over the next couple of months and years, as opposed to your profile picture NFTs. And Hoppers definitely checks all of my boxes in terms of it being an interactive and fun NFT that has some legs for it in the long run. I do want to touch base on Avalanche as well and let you guys know how that's doing, but I might make a separate video dedicated to that. So firstly, we can kind of start by focusing in on Avalanche NFTs and this chart right here on how they're all performing. Now, this chart does list them by market cap, but honestly, what you really want to look at when you're comparing the NFTs in terms of which ones are growing is the volume. So if we click on volume right here, this is how much is being traded or how much is being used in the system. Without that volume, the NFT will likely be forgotten about or just fall off a cliff in terms of price. So you can see Hopper's Game is number one. Now, again, it does have sort of an advantage due to the fact that it launched very recently, so you do have that, but nonetheless its volume is still pretty impressive for the first kind of couple days that it's been out. And of course, we do have Avalanche still sitting here at number 4, which is a pretty big deal. A lot of times these NFTs that launch, they do well for 1 or 2 days, but again, they fall off a cliff after new ones come out and interest is lost. But this is kind of the thing that I want to focus in on, is the fact that if your NFTs are interactive and people are doing stuff with them on a daily basis, I think they have a much better chance of sticking around and getting a good floor price and continued growth over time, as opposed to some of these ones that fizzle out really quickly. It's just a buy it and sell it for a quick flip, or if it's one that you just farm it to death for a couple days and the whole thing dies out. But Hopper's Game, like I said, let's focus in on this right now, and we can take a look at see kind of what all these buttons do and how this is sort of different than a lot of the other NFTs on Avalanche, and how it's kind of raises the bar from what we've seen with things like Police Game, which really kicked off the active NFTs over here, Avalanche, and now we have Hopper's Game. So going over to the first page here, we'll go through all the tabs and I'll show you guys what each thing does. The first thing to note is they did mint 10,000 of these things at 1.75 Avalanche tokens. And if we take a look right here, they're trading at about a floor price of 1.85. So I do think that now might be a good time, at least it's a pretty much an average time to jump in. These NFTs are not super duper expensive, but they're also not super duper cheap, which I do think they will cheapen up over time as well. But it's really hard to tell with these things because, like I said, this is kind of uncharted territory with these active games and how they're going to perform overall. So going back to the Hoppers Game, we said 10,000 to mint, 1.75 AVAX for each of these if you guys are comparing prices. The second tab right here where it says My Hoppers, this lists all of your hoppers and tadpoles. We'll talk about tadpoles in a little bit, but I also really do like this because there's a lot of things that are on here that are related to the game. It's nice and organized. It'll tell you your commons, your rares, your legendaries. So having a chart like this makes it a lot easier to compare how you're doing with your collection of your own. So looking at the stats right here, you have your picture, you have the number, you have the level. So the level is going to be very important in this game. Just like with Avalanche, the higher your level, the more things you're going to be able to do with your hopper frog. You have your tier. Again, that doesn't really matter too much unless you're doing some quick flipping. It really does matter more about, in my opinion, for leveling and these other stats. You have your activity. Right now there are 2 activities that your hopper can do. Your hopper can be farming or catching flies. In Avalanche case, this is the same as digging or getting I forget what is the name of that token, getting the ant gold. It's a similar thing to that. Uh, and then you also have breeding available for your hopper too, and you have an idle hopper, which is what most people are not going to be having idle hoppers. You're going to want to be doing something with your hopper. The next set of tabs here we have is strength, agility, vitality, intelligence, and fertility. So all of these different attributes that your hopper has is going to affect what he can do in the game. And it's sort of random, but we'll take a look at that too. Having a higher stat in strength might give you a better yield than having a higher status in vitality. So we'll take a look and see how all these things are kind of mapped together, but it's up to you about how you want to play the game. If you want to diversify and get hoppers with all kinds of different abilities, if you want to focus in on one ability, that you can do that as well. But I really do like the way that they implemented all of these statistics with your hopper. So we'll talk about these in a second. Just keep them in mind for your memory. Next up, we have the tab that's adventure. So adventure is where those stats are going to come into play. So for the first adventure that you're doing with your hopper, you're likely going to be doing the stream, the swamp, or the pond. And you can sort of see what your hopper is going to be doing. I only have one available, so it's not popping up right now. But if you have some idle hoppers, when you click on this plus button, it's going to show the picture of your little frog, and it's going to tell you how much fly you're going to be earning on a daily basis. So you can click around on all the different buttons, and obviously you're probably going to want to stake your frog in the one with the highest daily return. For this one, I have one frog right here in the swamp, and it doesn't have his stats here either, but he's minting, I think it's about like 0.6 for fly a day from this one, which is not too shabby. So right now he has a couple that I can withdraw, but that's not a very high amount, so I'm going to keep that in the tank for a little bit later. But again, you have a lot of different things here. So to really explain this, I have to go over to the documents page to show you guys what I mean by this. So like I said, with those different attributes that we looked at earlier, if you have a frog, and let me just do a comparison with my frog and show you guys kind of what he's doing. So my frog, for example, has a very high vitality and a very low agility. So what does that mean? Let's go back over to this this document page. Again, this is on the website. Since my frog has a very high vitality, that means that he's going to be making more from the swamp. So that's why I put him in the swamp. And he has a very low strength. If I put him in the pond, he's not going to get as much from the pond because he has a low strength. So that's one factor that comes in making more of these fly tokens, which you can use for generating more money later on. We'll talk about that too. So that's how these tiers for the adventure works. And then it gets a little more complicated even later. So as your hopper levels up more, you're going to be able to go to different adventures, and it's going to require different strengths, intelligence, vitality, and agility. So all these tiers and these attributes are going to be a factor in what you're going to be doing with your frog and how much your frogs are going to be making. But it's not just that. So this is the next thing that I really like is there's more to it than just having very, very high stats. So we talked about adventures, and you guys can look at all these different things on your own when you get to the website here. But then next we have voting. So as your fly is in those different adventures, whichever one you picked, they're going to be earning as your frog is in those different adventures, they're going to be earning flies. So those flies, you're going to be able to claim and stake them. And as you stake them, you're going to be able to get this V fly or voter fly tokens. So voting, I know in most places people don't really care about governance tokens, but this is a governance token that affects you immediately as you're using it. So with the V fly does, as you're staking this and you're getting some V fly, you can use that V fly and click on this tab right here to vote. Now, if you have a a lot of hoppers that can do things in the stream or the swamp or the forest, have different types of strengths, then you're going to want to use your voting tokens in the particular area where your frogs are hosted in the highest. Because what that means, the more votes whichever location has, the more distribution of fly tokens that you're going to be getting. I really do like this element, so it's not just about the attributes that your frog has, but it's also about the people who are playing the game and where they want or the voting power to be in terms of making the most profit with that fly token. So this is a really cool kind of addition that's not in any of the other games that I've seen. It's one of the reasons why I really do like this. And then we have a couple of other tabs here too. We have the market tab, so you can kind of see which frogs are on market, what the minimum, the floor price is for each rarity of a frog, and recent market sales and all that kind of stuff. And when you click on these things, it'll bring you to NFT Trade if you want to actually purchase some of these floor priced frogs. And finally, actually not finally yet, we have the docs page, and the docs page will give you that game mechanics so you guys can really dig deep into the game to understand it, the white paper, the team, all that stuff right there. And the thing that I actually forgot to mention as we were in the adventure page, up here there is breeding. So let me click on breeding and explain to you guys what breeding is. So breeding with your frog, if your frog is at a high enough level, this is not something you should do with a level 1 frog, but if your frog is at a higher level, you can stake them here in the breeding pool, and when they're in that breeding pool, they're going to be able to create tadpoles. Let me show you what the tadpoles look like here. So breeding mechanics, we can see right here. This is what our little tadpoles are going to do. And tadpoles are, I haven't really looked into it too much, but they're going to be the next part of the game. So the higher fertility you have, the higher chance you're going to have to be able to create these tadpoles, and you're going to have rarities with these tadpoles as well. Now, what exactly will the tadpoles do? Again, you guys have to really do your own research on that because I'm not too sure. But what it says right here on the document page is that they're going to be used for later parts in the Hoppers game universe, and they're going to be NFTs as well, so you can trade them hopefully for a quick profit. And it reminds me a lot about Ether Orcs and the Ether Orcs allies. If these teams build this well, it works really well. So you might want to get to breeding. The downside to doing breeding, however, is two things. Number one, you're not going to be getting flies, and number two, when you put your hopper in the breeding pool, you have to wait 24 hours before you can take your hopper out and start making more flies. But you will get an NFT potentially if you have the luck to make one from depositing your frogs into here. So that is the gist of this game. I think it's a pretty cool game. There's a lot of elements to it that I think gives it the power to survive a long time, like we've seen with Chicken, we're sort of seeing with Avalanche, and I think that Hoppers game is going to be another one that sits at the top spot. Now, don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean that the floor price is going to go to infinity. In fact, with my Avalanche video that hopefully I'll be making later, I'm sort of at break even with Avalanche because they've been consistently being this, like they've been a consistent price for a long time. Now that's a good thing because even though I'm at break even in terms of NFTs, if I sold all my NFTs, I'd get the same amount that I put in for purchasing them all with Avalanche. These are also farming games, so I've made a lot with Ant Gold, and I'm able to sell my Ant Gold on a daily basis if I want to do that, and that's where the profit comes in. That's how these games, you can generate profit from these games. And I think that with Hopper's game, it'll be a very similar thing with the Fly token and how their mechanics works. So definitely keep this one on your radar, and I'm going to be looking for more active NFT games like this. There's been a lot of new stuff that has come out that I haven't talked about because they might have an active game that hasn't launched yet, or they are not they don't have an active type of game. But these are the ones that I really like. That is everything for today, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Check out my Patreon page if you want to get access to my Discord, where we're going to be talking about more of this stuff in the future. Hopefully I can stay more active and get plugged into a lot of this stuff more and give you guys some value on that Discord. But that is available for those of you who are hardcore deep into this stuff. I will catch you guys in the next video. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out.